I'm joined now by Tom Collina. He is the Director of Research at the Arms Control Association in Washington. Tom, what did you hear?
Well, what I heard made me hopeful. You know, we haven't heard the details.
Yeah.
Those are yet to come, probably in the budget that gets released a month from now. But what I heard is that the Pentagon is going to have to choose priorities, and that is what hasn't happened in the past 10 years. When you have a lot of money, you don't have to choose between things. You can buy everything. But those days are over. Now is the day where we have to actually choose the priorities and spend on the highest priorities and don't spend on the lower ones. And so what we saw was Obama really trying to figure out what the priorities are going to be. You know, it's going to be terrorism, it's going to be proliferation, it's going to be Asia and the Middle East.
Yeah.
And he said pretty clearly it's not going to be outmoded Cold War systems. And that's exactly right. I mean, we've been maintaining the weapons of yesterday's war while fighting the war of today, and we can't do them both. We have to shift to the wars of tomorrow and the weapons of tomorrow and get rid of the Cold War systems that are still hanging around. I mean, we're still spending hundreds of billions of dollars on nuclear weapons, for example, that frankly are geared to fight the Soviet Union, and it's simply not there anymore.
Yeah, so just to use a bit of the president's language here, yes, our military will be leaner, armed forces that are agile, flexible, and ready for the full range of contingencies and threats. We've heard some numbers kicked around. Is enough going to be cut? The numbers that you've heard so far, should more be cut?
Well, we haven't heard the numbers. You know,
how about that $450 billion number?
Well, that's a great start.
Yeah.
It could be twice that.
Right.
You know, if the sequestration that is technically in effect now actually takes root a year from now, that 450 is going to turn into $1 trillion. And frankly, we should not be scared even of that large number, because these are consistent with defense drawdowns that we've seen after other wars, quite frankly, and is consistent with those drawdowns. So, you know, this is what happens when wars end and the budget crisis demands people to tighten their belts. And, you know, again, I think the president has it right, where we have to choose the priorities. It has to be a strategy-driven approach, and we have to fund the priorities we think are important and not spend on the things that we don't.
Sure, Tom, we don't know the particulars yet, but in making the cuts that we'll learn about at some point, is the U.S. Expectation here that NATO and individual countries will continue to take the lead in operations the way they did, obviously, in 2011 in Libya, and I think the way the French did, certainly, in the Ivory Coast in removing Laurent Gbagbo? Is that part of the future here?
Well, you know, every country is having their financial problems, just like the United States is, and in Europe, it's quite serious. So I would say it's too early to say how NATO, in particular, is going to respond to this budget crunch. But I would imagine that even though the U.S. will maintain its commitment to NATO, there'll be a reduction in funds spent on NATO. I think it's just inevitable.
Okay, Tom, appreciate it. Tom Collina, he is the Director of Research at the Arms Control Association, joining us from Washington, D.C. Tom, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.